let's have a look at today's deck. It's Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow. For those who don't know her ability, she is the ninja commander they made with actually another commander series, I think. And Yuriko's ability is she has commander ninjutsu. So ninjutsu is ability that resolves from that came from Kamigawa. So basically, whenever you had a creature attack your opponent and you had an unblocked creature, you could pay the ninjutsu cost from a creature card in your hand, and then take that unblocked creature back to your hand and instead put in your ninja attacking and unblocked. And they usually had some effects that would allow them to do something whenever they deal combat damage. So in this case, this one is a special occasion of the ability. It's Commander Ninjutsu, so you can even use this ability from your command zone. So usually you just play her for 2. Um, Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. So basically, you got card draw, and also each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So this is life loss, so it gets around damage mitigation. Also, if you have some cards for 10 mana, 4 attacks is all that you will need for Yuriko. Now, to do this, you will mostly want unblockable creatures, ninjas, and deck manipulation, and some expensive cards. And we'll have a look at the deck now. But before we do that, let's have a quick look on what the guy says on what his deck should do. I just want the deck to have a really good synergy around Yuriko's abilities and a semi-ninja tribal. Try to use a lot of library manipulation to improve the chance of good Yuriko hits. Any overall upgrades or cards I may have overlooked, and budget is for overall upgrades, so we have $50 to work with. Righty. So let's first have a look at the deck, which is already a card too big, so we have a deck size of 101. So let's have a look at the lands first. So we have an access tunnel, target creature can't be blocked, that's a great card, and we should also have the Rogue's Passage in here. Yeah, there it is. So we already have 2 lands that make our creatures unblockable. We also have Choked Emissary, it's just a check land, right? Yes, it's just a reveal check land. We have a Command Tower, Creeping Tar Pit. I probably wouldn't play the Creeping Tar Pit since it's entering the battlefield tapped. Let me make a copy of the deck. And I need to be logged in to make a copy. So Creepy Tar Pit is probably more a hindrance than a help, even though it can become a creature. Stream as basically to play a land tapped and then on the next turn have it become a creature is usually not all that good. At least I find. I rarely really activate the man lands, and they are usually more like a guild gate, and you don't play guild gates. So let's now make a copy of the deck so I can make some. So I can make some cuts once Architect gets around to actually doing something. Okay, now. So, great. So now let's get the creepy tar pit out of here. Since, as I said, entering the battlefield tapped is probably not worth it. Darkwater Catacombs is a filter land, Dimir Aqueduct. Now this is also a land that enters tapped. And while I really like the Karoo land since they are basically card draw on a land, since you get 2 mana out of your land and also you get your land back to your hand, they are quite risky to play once your meta starts to play targeted land destruction, since then the Karoo lands are usually the first ones that are being blown up, and this is not only costing you 1 land in this case, but essentially 2 land drops, which can be really, really painful. If you don't run into a lot of targeted land destruction, they are actually great to run, and one of the few lands where I would say entering the battlefield tapped is fine. Now, Evolving Wilds is not that case. It's also fetching a land, entering the battlefield tapped. The one argument you can make for Evolving Wilds is that it's fetching, so you can essentially shuffle your deck, which is great if you know what the top of your library looks like, and we will have a look on whether or not we know that. So this one might go. Same for Fabled Passage. While it is getting you the land untapped in the late game, Yuriko is usually a deck that you want to play fast, so you want that untapped land early and not late. Alima Depths is just a tapped land that does 1 mana, but you can manipulate your deck by it, so it's fine. And then we have some islands, they are fine. We have the Mysterious Sanctuary. Let me check what it does again. I know I have it lying around here somewhere. Um, so it is an island. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. So again, this one is just going to enter untapped very late into the game, since probably half of your lands won't be islands, or more like 2/3 of your lands won't be islands. And it puts something from your graveyard on top of your library. So again, you have some library manipulation, so you can make an argument for it. But it only does this if it enters untapped. So in this case, it's probably not happening too often. I would cut this island if if I realize that it's not working often enough, and I reckon it won't work very often. Since we are playing 10 islands, 2 fetches, 11 islands, 3 fetches. Yeah, 11 islands and 3 fetches, 12 islands. So exactly 1/3 of the lands are islands. So on average, you would need to have 9 lands out probably to actually get. Yeah, that's not good enough. Let's just cut it right now. No, not that one, but the Mysterious Sanctuary. Reliquary Tower just makes 1 mana, removes your hand size, which is nice because you will have a lot of draw with this deck. And also because you're taking stuff back to your hand will fill up quite quickly. Rogue's Passage unblockable is fine. Sunken Hollow, it's fine. Again, it only enters untapped in turn 3 or later. Probably 4 or later if you don't get lucky with your basic lands. But yeah, that's okay-ish. I would be... I'm torn on this one. I would actually need to play it in this deck and see how often it would enter untapped and how often it would enter tapped. Now, Tainted Isle, that one is a great one. The Tainted Lands are a cycle from, I have no idea what edition it was. But basically, they generate neutral mana or colorless mana. But if you control a swamp, they can make black mana or some colored mana. So they essentially turn into a dual land. And that's quite neat. And they are available for every color. So if you are playing any deck that is playing heavily in black and you will need some more double lands, consider the Tainted Lands. Temple of Doom enters tapped Scry 1. Again, the Scry 1 is what is saving this land, since you can use it to get more of Yuriko's ability. Temple of the False Gods. Now this one generates 2 colorless mana. And that's not really what you want in this deck from what I'm seeing in the mana cost. You have some very, very expensive cards, but they are not here to actually be being played. But they are rather here to deal damage to your opponents, and you want to put them on top of your deck. And other than that, most of the stuff here has a heavy color requirement, so I'd much rather play another basic land. Again, this only turns online once you control 5 or more lands. So turn 5 the earliest, since you don't have any mana ramp here. Colors don't have that much mana ramp naturally, but also no Wayfarer's Bubble. And then we have the Terramorphic Expanse. Again, it's shuffling, so it's fine-ish. And we have the Watery Grave, which is an island swamp, a shockland. That one is always good. So far for the land base. Now let's have a look at the deck. So first of all, we have 4 sorry. We have 4 enchantments. We have the Arcane Adaptation. This one changes your creature types, I think. Yes, as Arcane Adaptation enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control are the chosen type in addition to their other types. So basically, you just name ninjas, and all of your creatures are ninjas. It's also true for creatures that you own that are on the battlefield. So everything in your graveyard is a ninja, everything in your deck is a ninja, and so on. It's probably not that relevant, but everything being a ninja means her ability will trigger quite often. The same is true for Xenograph. It's a bit more on the expensive side, maybe too expensive for this deck. As I said, this deck usually wants to be quite fast, and Xenograph also just makes everything a ninja. Now, we also have Equilibrium. Whenever you play a creature spell, you may pay 1 mana. If you do, return target creature to its owner's hand. So this one is a little bit off removal. Now let me see whether or not Ninjutsu actually casts. And again, does it cast an unblocked creature you control? I mean, yes, it can get rid of blockers, but you don't want your creatures to being able to be blocked in the first place. So I'd probably take this one out since, I mean, you are playing more creature spells than you normally would, but I don't think this is actually going to be relevant. What I'd much rather play is something like Words of the Wind. And again, I should get used to just typing MTG from the start. So Words of the Wind is for 1 mana, the next time you would draw a card this turn. Oh wait, she's not actually drawing cards, right? She's putting cards into your hand. Oh yeah, no, she's not drawing cards, so forget what I just said. So what else do we have here? We have also Smoke Shroud. Enchanted creature has +1/+1 and has flying, and whenever a ninja enters the battlefield under your control, you may return Smoke Shroud from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. So basically, you can make your ninjas a little harder to block by giving them flying as an evasive ability, which is fine-ish, but really nothing to write home about. Okay, so the enchantments are fine. We have artifacts for mana ramp. We have the default Sol Ring that we always have. We have Sensei's Divining Top. Let's just put this one to another category, and this one is Topdeck Manipulation. We'll look at this one later. Other than that, everything is just a mana rock, and I'm not really sure if you actually want to play that many mana rocks. I mean, the one he's playing is fine. They are the most efficient mana rocks. What is this one? Maskwood Nexus. Okay, this one is also just creature type, so let's make an additional category for this one. Everything is ninja. Let's just put something in there. Now, we have some mana rocks. You don't really need him with this deck, but mana rocks also don't hurt. So usually you want to play a creature that's hard to block on turn 1, or even just a creature on turn 1, because usually not all of your opponents will be able to play a creature on turn 1, attack with it, and then start with Yuriko's Ninjutsu on turn 2. And that should fill your hand. Enough. Okay, now let's go on to the instance. Oh, okay, so we missed discussing Sensei's Divining Top. For those not in the know about this card, it's an artifact. For 1 mana, you can play it. For 1 mana, you can look at the top 3 cards of your library and then put those cards back into any order. So if you discover you have an expensive card on top of your library, you can just rearrange it so that you don't actually accidentally draw it, but instead can abuse it with Yuriko's ability to shoot a lot of damage. Also, you can just draw a card and put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. So this can be quite handy in cases of mill, or in cases that you see something important on top of your library that you're just needing right now. Overall, a great card, and it's gotten a bit expensive. I remember thinking, oh no, I'm buying this for €3 and it's too much. Okay, now let's go on. We have more library manipulation. We have Brainstorm. Draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So in this case, it's especially great since if you are stuck with these expensive cards in your hand, you can just put them on top of your library, and then they are there and ready to be accessed with Yuriko's ability to deal a crap ton of damage. Other than that, Brainstorm really gets good if you have fetch lands, which this deck lacks. Or any way to consistently shuffle your deck, since Brainstorm usually can put you 2 cards that you don't need on top of your deck and then shuffle them away. But in this case, Brainstorm is perfectly fine even without fetch land, since it allows you to get the cards stuck in your hand on top of your deck. Now we have Commit. That's basically a counter spell or a bounce spell for 4. That's not that great. And it's also Memory. Basically, Memory is a wheel, if I remember right. Yes, it's just a wheel effect. Not really sure why you would want a wheel effect in this deck. So your hand is probably going to be full anyways. So if you wheel, you will most likely wheel your opponents. You will most likely give your opponents more advantage than you would give yourself. So unless I see some wheel synergy, we will put this one straight into the out pile. So what else do we have? Counterspell, it's just protection, counterspells, always good. Next off, we have Curtain's Call. Destroy 2 target creature. I think this is just in here for because it's 6 mana. It costs less for each opponent, so in a 4-player pot, this one is just 3 mana, and you can destroy 2 target creatures, which is fine. So I'll put this one to high CMC, because I think that's why it's in here. We have Cyclonic Rift, which is just great. Even though it's basically the opposite effect that you want to have. So it's CMC 2, but you always want to play it for CMC 7. You'd much rather have it CMC 7, but have an effect that you could play it for 2, but can't happen in this case. So this one is just an overall great removal spell. We have the Swan Song, which is another counter spell. Action, there it is. We have Pongify, which is removal. We have Negate, which is another fine counterspell. We have a Mystical Tutor. Now, this one is interesting since it's a top deck tutor. And a Mystical Tutor searches a library for an instant or sorcery card and puts that card on top of your deck. So basically, you're searching a library for your most expensive card, put it on top of your deck, and then Yuriko gets it. And on that note, we should probably also add a Vampiric Tutor in here, in case we can actually afford it. Vampiric. Since it has recently been reprinted, it's kinda cheapish. Magic card mark. Let me just check what it's actually going for. Okay, 30 euros again. Yeah, it's not that cheap. So this is probably a card that's getting at expensive. That's probably a card that we are not actually including here, since it would eat up most of the budget. But it's a great card, so yeah. Let me just put this one out of the deck. Okay, what else do we have? We have Trickery Charm. Choose 1, target creature gains flying. Or target creature becomes the creature type. So again, this one can manipulate the creature type, or like a top card of your library, top 4 cards of your library, then rearrange them. So this is basically doing all that we want in this deck. It is giving us evasion if we need evasion. It's giving us another creature type if we need another creature type, basically ninja. Or it also can rearrange your deck. So this one is just an overall very decent card to play here, especially for 1 mana. And we have Mystic Confluence, very expensive counterspell that can also do some other stuff. So you can return creatures to hands, you can draw cards. So this one is really a Swiss Army knife, but it also has the price of a Swiss Army knife, which is fine in this case. So we can use this. We can use this one. Next up, we have one of my favorite cards that's ever been printed in blue and black, Limdul's Vault, which has played, I think, far too. Which has gone up in price a lot since I last played it. I bought a... Okay, yeah, which has gone up in price a lot, so I guess other people have been catching up on the card. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, and then you can put them back in any order. Or you can pay 1 life, put those cards on the bottom of your library, and then look at the next 5 cards. So you can essentially tutor your entire library and then set up the top 5 cards. Maybe a bit expensive on your life points, but it's still great since you get to set up more than just 1 card draw. So this one is great top deck manipulation. Next off, we have Fear in the Way. Fear returns a creature to its owner's hand. And away, target player sacrifices a creature. So this one is just removal. And you can combine them, right? Yeah, they have fuse. So you can play both for 5. But not really sure if this one is going to make it. Not really a strong card. Evacuation, great board wipe. You can also use it to protect your own creatures in case someone is playing an out of time. Because you really don't want Yuriko gone in this deck, since the entire deck resolves around Yuriko. But let's put it to removal. Discombobulate, counter target spell. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. So a counter spell that can rearrange your library is also fine. I like counter spells that synergize with your deck's plan, like the Fuel for the Cause that counter spell that can what's the word? Putting counters. Wucherung in German. What is no, not graft. Proliferate, right? Proliferate. So we have our counter spells, protection, and we have Digs Through Time, which is another great expensive spell that has Delve. So for Delve, you can just exile cards from your graveyard to make the spell a lot cheaper. And you can look at top 7 cards, put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library. So unfortunately, this does not allow us to stack our library, but it's 8 mana. So this one is dealing 8 damage to each of our opponents if we reveal it, and that should be enough for it to stay in. Now let's look at the sorceries next. Coastal Breach, Undaunted. Again, this one gets cheaper for each opponent, and all non-land permanents are returned to their owner's hand. So another board wipe that's also high CMC. Great. We have Commit Connive. What is it? Connive and Connect. Basically, the first way of the card can steal a creature that's 2 or less. And the second is you can Surveil 3. So Surveil is from the new Ravnica. You can look at the top 3 cards of your library and then either put them into your graveyard or on the top of your library. And then you can return a creature card with any a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I'm not quite sure how the CMC on this card is calculated, because I would say if it's CMC 5, it's not good enough, but if it's CMC 9, it's very, very fine. CMC double cards. What's the actual current rule for split cards? Split cards. CMC. With Amonkhet, they changed the rule for split cards. The CMC of a split card is always the combination of both halves except on the stack. Okay, yeah, perfect. So this one is CMC 9, so it's staying in. Actually, didn't I? No, I didn't cut any split cards. Okay. Now, Treasure Cruise. Again, Delve, you can exile cards from your graveyard, draw 3 cards, so this one can double as card draw. Other than that, it's also 8 damage. Temporal Mastery, Miracle. Miracle Time Walk, basically you can take an extra turn for 7 mana, or if it's the first card that you draw in the turn, you can just play it for 2. It probably is not the first card if you draw it with Yuriko, unless someone makes you skip your draw step. But still, if you deal 7 damage, you're fine, and you can also just put it on the top of your library and then use any instant speed card draw to actually activate this in your opponent's turn, and then take a turn after their turn, which will totally mess up the turn order if you're taking long for your turn, and will probably the wrong person will continue after your turn, but that's the way with Time Walks. This one is also high CMC and very nice. Sakashima's Will. It's 4 mana. Choose one. If you control a commander or you cast a spell, you may choose both. Target opponent chooses a creature and they control, and you gain control of it. Choose a creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature. No. I think there is an issue with this, and that the original pilot overlooked, and this is the legendary rule. So if you choose Yuriko as a creature, then every creature you control is Yuriko, and they just kill each other. If you don't choose Yuriko, then your Yuriko is not there anymore. So the only way where Sakashima's Will could actually make an impact is if you had a lot of creatures, one of them would be a shapeshifter or a ninja, then you would play Sakashima's Will to make everything a ninja, and then you would ninjutsu Yuziko in. But this would require you to have 6 mana, and that's iffy. Now, Salt and Dawn. So this one is again 7 CMC, so it will stay on for the high CMC by default. Recover target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand is fine. Tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap is also fine, so the effect is not really that important, but we want to run it for the high CMC. Pre-order Rain is another great top deck manipulation. Although I would probably rather play, and this is the only deck where I would ever play this card in, Serum Visions. Since Prior Drain gives you the Scry 2, and then you draw a card, which makes the card that you draw a lot better, since you basically can choose from 3 cards. But for this specific case, Serum Visions actually does it the other way around. So you first draw a card, which is crappy since you don't get any selection, and then you scry 2. And that's a lot better for this deck since you can set up your deck better. So Pre-Drain still stays in no matter what. But we will also add Serum Visions here. And we will put this one into an add pile. Serum Visions is a bit expensive since it's played in Modern, since Ponder and Preordain are banned in Modern since they are too strong and give blue decks too strong of an edge, which is quite strange. It's not really something that you would think about in Commander, saying Ponder is too strong. But yeah, that's the way Modern is. Ponder, look at the top 3 cards. Again, this one is Library Manipulation, so this one is fine. Khan's Temporal Sundering, again, a high CMC card that allows you to have an extra turn. Garrick's Wake, high CMC card that's also a board wipe. Dream Cache is Library Manipulation. Now, what is this card? Diabolic Vision. Look at the top 5 cards of your library and put one of them into your hand. Put the remaining 4 on top of your library in any order. Oh, nice. So this one is also very nice library manipulation. Demonic Tutor, this one will search your library for a card and put it into your hand. I mean, it's always strong. It's not really synergistic with the deck, other than allowing you to shuffle your deck. So yeah, but a Tutor is always strong. So let's have a look here. So first creature is the Avatar of Woe. You can play her for cheap, but I think the reason she's in here is mostly because she's high CMC. Baleful Strix is an evasive creature that also draws you a card on and enter the battlefield, and this is really perfect and exactly the thing that you want. Evasive, cheap creature. Changeling Outcast. So this one is very interesting since it can't block and can't be blocked. And it's also a shapeshifter or a changeling. So this creature has every creature type, so it is a ninja for all means and purposes of Yuriko's ability. So you can play the Changeling Outcast on turn 1, play Yuriko on turn 2, and then on turn 3, you can play the Changeling Outcast again, maybe give it haste with something, and then use it also as a ninja that can draw you cards and kill your opponents. The Deep Sea Kraken is again just high CMC. Dimir Infiltrator, another card that can't be blocked for CMC 2, which is fine-ish. Not really the greatest to play your unblockable cards for CMC 2 if they don't have any additional effect, since there are a lot of great unblockable cards for CMC 1. Nonetheless, it also has Transmute, so you can pay 3 mana and then search your deck for a card that is the same CMC. And I am not quite sure where you would actually use this. So what you would actually search for. I mean, you can search for a tutor, you can search for a counterspell, but you only do this as a sorcery, so yeah, that's fine. Fallen Shinobi is a great ninja that's also featuring the ninjutsu ability. Whenever Fallen Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, the player exiles up the top 2 cards of the library. Until end of turn, you may play these cards without paying their mana cost. It's mostly not a ninja that you can get out. I found while playing this deck in the past, they actually build a Yuriko deck way back. I don't think it exists anymore. That usually you don't have the mana to actually play his ability, but it's fine. I mean, you can play the cards, right? So you can actually play lands. Yes, you can play the cards. So this one is Ninja. Also, it's CMC 5, so it's not too shabby if you reveal it with her ability. And we have another CMC 5, Ghost Lord of Fuge. Huge. Is unblockable, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, that player reveals the top card of reveals his or her hand. You choose a card from it, the player removes that card from the game. So now we are going with a discard strategy that we don't really need. If we can connect with this creature and at CMC5, we are probably in a good spot anyways, and we would much rather play a counter spell than pay 5 mana to get a creature out. Here would still win Ninjutsu, so again featuring the Ninjutsu ability. It's CMC5, so it deals decent damage if revealed by Yuriko's ability. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a ninja card. So this one just brings ninjas out. And more importantly, for 2 mana, target ninja can be blocked this turn. So if you have your commander out, the issue with her is usually that she gets blocked by everything since she has no evasion on her own. Higuro can fix this and just make her unblockable. So let's put it into the ninja. Ingenious Infiltrator. Whenever ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Ninjutsu 2. So again, you can also play him on turn 2 if you, for whatever reason, don't want to play Yuriko. It's fine. Invisible Stalker, another cheap, evasive creature, unblockable and hexproof, makes him really hard to remove from your opponents. Mist Cloaked Herald, 1 mana, can be blocked. Perfect creature for this deck, always what you want to play. Another ninja that makes copies of himself whenever he deals combat damage, which is also perfect. Mistblade Shinobi, another ninja, and when he deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature the player controls to their hand. So also another good ninja that doubles as removal. Ninja of the Deep Hours? Ja, Ninja der Tiefenstunde heißt das Ding, glaube ich, in Deutsch. Also Ninjutsu 2, so quite cheap to get out if you have a cheap creature. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Not really all that great, not really something that you actually would, I don't think you would actually want. It's not all ninjas, it's just this. I mean, it's not a ninja, so yeah, we want ninjas. Now we have another ninja, which is a red ninja, Ninjutsu 4, and whenever this red deals damage, that player discards 2 cards. So it's mostly in here because it's a ninja. Next up, we have the Silent Blade Oni. This is another expensive ninja, so it's great since it's CMC 7. But also, when he deals combat damage to a player, look at that player's hand, and you may cast a non-land card without playing that mana cost from that hand. So this one is, yeah, we put it for Tribe CMC. Next up, we have the Siren, which is a great creature type, Siren Pirate Wizard. And also, you can counter spells and abilities that target your stuff. It doesn't have evasion, but it doesn't mean that it won't connect. Oh, wait, it has flying. Forget what I just said. Great card. Slitherblade, also unblockable for 1, also great card. Spark Double. Now, this one can double Yuriko, I guess, and it's. A second. I think it ignores the legendary rule, yes. Yeah, it's not legendary if that's permanent is legendary, so you can actually use this to copy Yuriko and get her effect twice, which is fine. So let's we have some synergy here. Let's just put it to here. Next off, a 2 mana creature with flying that can also rearrange your deck, and that's especially great since you can play this effect again and again. As I said, for 2 mana creatures, you will probably want them to have an enter the battlefield effect. Now, Tetsuko is another, so no, this one is not a ninja but a rogue, but it also makes all your stuff unblockable. So this one is great. Triton Stalker, another CMC 1 creature that's unblockable, so this one is also great. Why is this one in here? What does this actually do? Target player searches the library for a card and shuffles the library and puts that card on top of it. Ah, okay, Topdeck Manipulation, great card for this one. Topdeck Manipulation, there it is. And we also have the Walker of the Secret Ways. Deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, and for 2 mana you can save ninjas. Okay. This one's also Ninja Tribal. Okay, so we are cutting not that many cards actually. Most of the deck is already decent. And we are cutting 1, 2, 3, 4 non-land cards, so we don't actually have that much to add. Which means we can actually add some more expensive cards. And the first card that I would want to add no matter what is Scroll Rack. Now, Scroll Rack will take a good chunk of the budget, but it's so good. Scroll Rack also was recently reprinted, so it's affordable-ish. For 1 mana and tap, you exile any number of cards in your hand. Then you draw that many cards. or you put that many cards into your hand, so you get around some draw restrictions like Narset. And then you put the exiled cards in any order on top of your library. So if you have a hand full of expensive stuff, you can just put this expensive stuff on top of your library and then draw it with Yuriko to deal tons of damage. So this one is a sure add. What did I do with it? Okay, I did something. Let's add this card again. New category, add. Oh wait, I already have an add category, right? Yeah, Serum Visions. So this one is another great card to add. Now, I'm not quite sure what. So let's first just bump up this basic land count by 3. Or probably don't even need to. I think 33 lands could be fine for this deck. Yeah, I really think you want more unblockable cheap creatures, so let's look for them. And the best place where I find them without torturing my memory, 2 bits, is here. And we should probably be able to find the cards that I'm looking for here without me needing to search away. So the Drati Voidwalker is obviously not a great card if we have the mana for it. If we have the budget for it. We will add this one since for 2 you can play it, and yeah, you can screw your opponent's graveyard decks, which is always nice to have a stacks effect. We already have the Changeling Outcast in here, the Slither Blade. So do we have anything? Oh yeah, the Fairy Snitch, right. We really want this one, the Fairy Seer. Flying for CMC1 is already great, and it also has a Scry 2 on entering the battlefield. So easy decision here. Just a cheap creature that you get Scry 2 out of repeatedly. Where do we add? Where did we just add it? There it is. So we probably also want to add the Ornithopter since it's CMC 0, so you can always play it the turn that you draw it. That's also nice. It also has evasion, so you can actually get your commander into play with it. So this one is quite nice. We are already playing Mist-Cloaked Herald, and this one, I already mentioned the Tutor. Oh yeah, Tormented Soul is also another great CMC1 creature because it's unblockable. As I said, you will probably want to have as many CMC1 creatures as possible to get Yuriko started as soon as possible. Now, Ink Eyes could be interesting since she can resurrect stuff, right? Yeah, target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, but she's. Holy, when did she get so expensive? Yeah, okay, so we'll probably let her go. Now, Sorceries Student is not the one that can actually keep. Okay, it's also not a card that we will put in here depending on the price. Now, what else can we put in here? We can put this one in here because it's also unblockable. And as I said, we want to play at least, I think, 7 CMC1 creatures in this deck, maybe 8 that are unblockable. How many do we have at the moment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Don't actually need any more unblockable creatures. You could make an argument for Monsters Changeling. It doesn't have the evasion, but it is a changeling, so it counts as a ninja for Jericho's ability, which is quite fine. Gingerbread doesn't have the ability to. It doesn't have evasion, but it has haste, which can also be quite fine. Oh yeah, Spectral Sailor. This one is also a great card. We'll probably replace something else with it. Also, the nice thing about these CMC1 unblockable creatures is that they are cheap because they are just used in 2 or 3 decks. There's a blue and green commander that draws card whenever creature cards are dealing damage. So what would we want to take out for this one? I think probably the Fallen Shinobi is too expensive. Now, what else do we have here? We don't care about the Throat Seeker. We don't care about Tassa's Oracle. The Wingcrafter can be nice, but it's an issue if you play him on turn 1. Oh yeah, the Hope of Girapur, right. That one is also quite mean because it prevents your opponents from ramping, so you want to hit a green player with it early, just to hinder him. This one can be quite nice. Silver Raven, creature bird. Okay, so I think we should now look at what are the best creatures that you can play for cheap. Yeah, we will take out the Dimir Infiltrator. It's not, yeah, we will take this one out as well. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 evasive creatures. And that's probably all you need. The question is any of these creatures better than the ones that we are currently playing? The Hope of Girapur could be interesting since it prevents ramp. Question is, what do we actually want to take out for the Hope of Girapur? I mean, flying and can't be blocked is usually the same for this deck, since not all of your opponents will have flying creatures or be able to block flyers in most commander games. So we will probably take out the Spectrals. Nah, it has Flash. The nice thing with Spectral Sailor is that your opponents don't necessarily expect you to being able to play Yuriko on turn 2. So you can flash it in before and then pseudo haste on turn 2. But you really want a lot of these unblockable creatures. Just a lot of can't be blocked creatures here, right? And I think can't be blocked is the worst thing that we are actually playing. And the worst thing is this one, since it's only a 1/1. We'll take this one out and add a Hope of Girapur. Luckily, it was banned Hope of in some other format, so it got affordable for this format. And wait, then again, we don't really need the Hope of Girapur since it's not meant to connect. Yeah, so we not the best idea to add it. So let's go on. Draco, it's $1.49 for 16 CMC. Now we are talking. You will never play this card. But we want to add it here since it can essentially two-hit our opponents. So let's put this one to add. Now, do we have any other high CMC cards that we missed before? Notion Thief would be something that's always nice to consider. Oh yeah, here it is, Sakashima the Imposter. So this one is another clone that keeps his name, so you can actually use Sakashima to clone legendary creatures. So you could use this card to clone your commander. But this one is again expensive, so I will add this in the recommended expensive list. But this one is probably not going to make it. What else do we have? Differexine Walker is just not relevant. Cloud of Fairies can be nice since you can play them for free, but they are CMC2, so you don't actually get to use them on turn 1. Fierce Guardianship would be perfect since once your commander is out, you really don't want any shenanigans to happen. But again, it's too expensive for this deck tune. Do we have any other important cards that we missed? Snuff Out can be nice, but again, nothing that we would really need. As is Submerge, since Submerge is another free spells. So Snuff Out and Submerge are 2 spells that you can play for free under certain conditions. And they both Snuff Out destroys a non-black creature. Submerge will put a creature on top of their owner's library, which you could use if you would somehow be able to play one of your expensive creatures, which you're probably not. You could play Demonic Consultation, but this one is really, really risky, since you can easily kill yourself while playing Demonic Consultation. So you probably don't really want to play it. I mean, we could replace. Yeah, that's fine for now. Let's first check if we missed out. Oh yeah, Blink Mod Infusion. Another great high CMC card, CMC 14. So we really want some of these high CMC cards. Usually I'd say play an Eldrazi Titan. But I guess they are too expensive. So yeah, we are not playing any Eldrazi Titans here. But they are great, obviously, since they cost a crap ton of mana, so they can two-hit players. Do we have anything else that we really want to add? Oh yeah, Doomsday would be a nice idea. Doomsday is really a neat idea. Doomsday can finish the game on turn 4 potentially. Yes, we had Doomsday. Just because Doomsday is a fun card and everyone hates to see it on the table. And maybe Doomsday is too expensive for the budget. We will need to check this one. Now, what other expensive cards can we use? So we also had Dream Cache, Imperial Seal. Is ridiculously expensive, so we'll just add this one as a joke. Since no one, or almost no one, is really going to play this. But again, it's a top deck tutor, so exactly what we want. Dead Drop. This one is not a Delve card. What else? Personal Tutor. Okay, so again, this one is too expensive for most players. We will still add this one just to be conclusive, because it's not a top deck tutor. Now we already added Scroll Rack. We might really want. We don't need to add a Waveforce Bubble. I don't really think that we actually need the Mana Stones. I think we would much rather get rid of the Mana Stones, because we really don't want to be playing Mana Stones at any time of the game, really. Is there anything here that we need? Not really. I mean, Soothsaying is really nice. Oh yeah, Soothsaying is another great card. And I really think we should just play back to basics here and just go for basic lands. So Soothsaying. It's another add for the top of the deck tutor. So Soothsaying, for those who don't know the card, since it's a relatively obscure card, CMC 1 enchantment. For 5 mana, you can shuffle your library if you don't like what's in it or on top of it. And for X, you can look at the top X cards of your library and then put them back in any order. So again, you can use this to stack your library or just know what's on there. And yeah, we don't really need any planeswalkers. Oh yeah, we want. I'm always surprised how expensive cards got. But we will add it nonetheless in the expensive list since we can't actually fit it in the budget. Shizu the Storehouse. Okay, so on how many cards are we? 102, so we will need to cut a couple of cards. Computer Vault is another great card since it's a ninja. But again, this one is going over budget. So I'll just put him in here so the pilot can decide whether they want to invest more or not. And maybe they have some of the cards lying around. And if they have some of the cards lying around, obviously they are. You can just use them. Now we could make an argument for Lotus Beetle, just to have the little extra ramp. But we probably won't. So let's look at the deck. We have 12 high CMC cards and we added 2 ridiculous CMC cards. We already thinking about cutting. Yeah, we don't need a Sword Vessel. And what else do we cut? Is there any useless card in the high CMC cards? Probably Khan's Temporal Sundering is not going to make it. You don't want to Time Walk for 6, and you also don't want to. I mean, you can Time Walk for 6. Yeah, you can. 6, that's fine. Is each player now destroy 2 target creatures? What else can we cut? And we really want the ninjas. I think this one is too expensive to be played. And yeah, this should be it. Deck is on 100 cards now. And I think we should be done with the deck tune. Now all there's to do is to write it up for the pilot. So let's get the deck tune over here and let's ping Brian. And Brian, here is what I came up with. Now, overall the deck already was really solid, so not much had to be changed. Most of the changed stuff boils down to making the deck faster. Out all the lands I took out came ETB tapped or got online late. I'd probably recommend also cutting the fetch lands, Fabled Passage, Evolving Wilds. And what's the last fetch land? Terramorphic. Since they ETB tapped early. And replace them with basics. Also cut some basics since all Yuriko needs is 3 mana for the most part. And you are drawing a lot of cards, so land density can be lower. What else did I cut? I also cut the Demi Infiltrator. Too slow on T2. Tutor effect not relevant enough. What else did we cut? Triton. Stalker. Worst of the unblockable CMC1 creatures, which we added a lot more of, so Yuriko can go online on T2. Can you actually hear my keyboard? I hope not. Otherwise, it could be quite annoying to listen right now. What else did we cut? Commit. Added another counter spell. We did add another counter spell, right? Did I add another? Where's my add list? No, we did not add another counter spell. Too expensive. You don't want to wheel. Your hand is bigger. What else did we cut? Sakashima's Will, Nombo Legendary Rule, and Okiba Gang Shinobi. Too expensive. Same goes for Ghost Lord. Too expensive, not doing enough. And Equilibrium, not doing enough. Most stuff is already unblockable. Now, for the ads. Several basic lands. Now, Blink Moss Infusion plus Draco, CMC 14, 16 respectively. So if you just get these 2 cards with Yuriko, you already have your opponent's down to 10 life. Doomsday. Perfect top deck manipulation to end the game. Scroll Rack. Great to get expensive cards from your hand onto your deck. Soothsaying. Need to test this one. Maybe it's too slow, but otherwise, great deck manipulation. Serum Visions. In this case, the better what's it called? The other cantrip that he's actually playing. Preordain. And also a ton of evasive creatures. Go online on T2 consistently. Which should be the goal. Also some expensive suggestions, mostly Empiric Tutor, Topdeck, Shizu, Evasion for your commander. Sakashima can copy your commander. Mutavolt is a ninja, and Fierce Guardianship protects you. And last but not least, Imp Seal, personal tutor, just for fun, way too expensive. If you have any further questions, feel free to ping me. Questions, want to discuss the deck, feel free to ping me. Otherwise, just type close to close the workshop. Alrighty, that was this deck. Now we have one other that I took, and we look at this one too. But that's it for the ninja deck. So at least if he's not replying right now, and I don't think he will be replying right now. So we will go to the next one.